Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I want to talk about the number one underhanded trick or scam that's played out in family court, where the children are used as pawns. And this trick has been done for decades upon decades. Anytime it's to be talked about or discussed, it's quickly shot down. And it's shot down simply because any scam that's a money maker for some, they don't want to see the scam go away. Now before I get into what the scam is, I want to say this. Just because our personal, and I stress our personal situation doesn't match the scam, doesn't mean this scam isn't the norm. The main problem is that oftentimes the message in what is being said gets greatly lost and drowned out. Because some that say, "Oh well, that's not what happened to me," so forth and so on. And though I have empathy and sympathy for their problem, it doesn't mean what happened to them somehow changes what's happening to millions upon millions of people. Now before I give you an example of this, I will tell you in a nutshell what the scam has been played out in our family courts for years. And that's where divorce is filed on a man. Now listen carefully. No matter if the man is a good man or a bad man, it's usually standard operating procedure to paint this man out to be an unfit parent, to obtain a restraining order against him, to kick him out of the family home, and to file for sole custody, asking for the father to have supervised visitation. Now bear in mind, this is standard operating procedure even if the man is a good man. Did you hear what I'm saying? No matter if the man is good, or bad, or in between. This is the most common scenario that will come a man's way in family court. And all the ladies on my channel that are about ready to jump on your keyboards, please do me a favor. Wait until you've watched this entire video. And think about the men you know in your life, such as sons, nephews, and grandsons. And be honest with yourself. Even before this video, you more than likely have been scared for the future of these young men in your life because you know what I'm saying and many others have said on this topic is true. And trust me, we will get into some good examples that will make you think a bit. So why is this a scam? And why is it so popular and normal? And why is it so taboo to talk about or challenge? And why do feminists come out in droves and attack anyone man or woman that asks for the way family court is handled to be looked into and made fair? Well, here are the facts, people. There are good judges and bad judges. There are good lawyers and bad lawyers. But by and large most lawyers know, if they are going to make money, they are going to need a long drawn out battle, which will exhaust usually all of the man of all of his resources. And so all of these resources are put into the lawyer's pockets, the court system's pockets, and the women that is filing's pockets. Now this in no way is to say that all women that file for divorce aren't dealing with a male narcissist and aren't justified for doing what they are doing. But here's something I want you to think about. No one has a monopoly on evil. Do yourself a favor and watch the news. Or look at the news online. There are women, men, and children, all day every day doing some crazy and horrible things. But if we want to be honest with ourselves for a moment, though this is the case, the feminist agenda on how women are seen in our society hasn't changed and it's taboo to challenge it. Though every day there's a man doing the worst of the worst to his children and wife or girlfriend, or even to complete strangers. There are so-called mothers throwing lighter fluid on teachers threatening to burn the school down. There are so-called mothers throwing their children out of the window, or cooking them alive in a microwave or putting them in the oven, or shooting them, or raping them, or running over their boyfriend or husband with the family car, or hiring their side boyfriend to kill them. But yet when someone says, "Hey wait, it looks like women are just as bad as men. No better, no worse," feminists come out and shut it down. When men try to open up an battered men's shelter, feminists protest on the outside, getting it shut down. And you have to ask yourself why. And trust me, what I'm saying here connects to this family court scam big time. It's because if, let's say, battered men shelters become the norm, and they open up in every city and every state across the US and Canada, then Europe follows suit. So forth and so on. We are then forced to admit something they don't want us to admit. Women have the same capacity for violence, rape, and utter evil as their male counterparts. And once that is admitted, looked at, and addressed, all of the privileges of being believed first when the word rape is used, or domestic violence is used, will go out of the window. And things will start to be looked upon by the merit of the facts instead of what gender someone is. And if that happens, it's a slippery slope before it's agreed that in the case of custody of young children, no matter if it was in the case of a marriage gone wrong, or a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, or even the unfortunate one-night stand, for it to be a mandatory default to error on the side of being joint custody, with no spousal or child support. Both parties accept responsibilities for the child within regards to time and money. Now let's say before the relationship ended and the child was in private school, and one of the parents was the one paying for the schooling, and they do make more than the other. They will continue to pay for the schooling, not via the other parent, but through paying the school directly and saving a receipt. And the other parent will do what they can for that child within their financial limitations. And guess what? Feminists don't want this. And the reason why they don't want this is they don't want to stop the massive cash flow from men that have means to women that do not. And that's the simple truth. Now let me backtrack a second. Have you noticed when I talk about family court, I reference my father's situation, and I don't reference my personal relationship situation with Susie? There's a reason for that. If you go back in the archives, you will see where I've talked about Susie thinking she was being slick by discarding her responsibilities of her family and walking away. And as sad as that may be, this is truly a lucky thing that happens to some men that are with a narcissist wife or girlfriend and they have a family. But let me tell you what, it's rare. And because it's rare, I don't say, well, this is what Susie did, blah blah blah, in this situation, because I know it's rare. However, what happened to my father is textbook common. I mean, my father got hit with all of the textbook family court stuff you can think of. However, when I see or hear someone talking about how screwed up the family court system is, doesn't mean I somehow didn't get lucky, if you can call it that. Me getting lucky doesn't change the fact there are millions that haven't. And in that same vein, some women that find themselves screwed over in the family court doesn't take away from the fact there are far more men that get drugged through that same system. And it was created this way by feminists. And it's something that's done on purpose. And I have news for you. The feminists that see you get drugged through the family courts, ladies, they don't care about you. They just care their agenda got met. That's all. And by saying that doesn't mean there are more narcissist women than men, or men than women. It just means feminists have gotten so smart to design a system where they can literally own a man and destroy his life, and take his children away, and get paid for it. And any lawyer in this profession knows it's very real. And many lawyers go along with this even though they know it's wrong, simply because they are going to make more money. Here are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. If when custody petitions are filed, if they were to be as default joint custody, and it was you just go to court, you sign a few papers agreeing to the terms and conditions to share equally, and other odds and ends such as education for the child and so forth. There's no money in that. Spending a couple of days with a client and then it's over is a losing business for the average family court lawyer. However, when they instruct the woman to file for sole custody and supervised visits for a father that really loves his children, they know by doing so, the father is going to fight. He will now need to either give up Or fight by way of proving his innocence. And proving his innocence isn't cheap. Going to court-appointed psychological exams for no reason. Attending parenting classes. Having social workers come into your home to observe you with your children. All of this is paid for by the father. He has to pay to prove his own innocence. And though he might have a good and nice defense lawyer, he or she knows what the other lawyer is doing and why they are doing it. And he or she knows the fighting her client is needing to do is going to allow them to make more money as well. And the facts that surrounds the parent that is filing for sole custody and a good father is because she knows. She knows if she allows for joint custody to go through, there's no money in it for her. And she will now have to dip into her makeup and clothing income to pay for her child when the child is in her presence. Now ladies, before you hop on your keyboard, if this isn't you typing this isn't you, doesn't change the fact there are millions upon millions who fit this description. Okay. And we aren't talking about the women that are in the right to file this way against the bad men out there. We are talking about this being the norm for women to file this way against men they know are good fathers. And men they know are good men. Because they know if they don't file this way and play this stupid, or in their minds smart trick, they will then be held just as accountable for the financial raising of their child as the father. And to millions of women out there, that is something they want no part of. And again, if this isn't you, that's great. But tell the truth. If you have a son, you know instinctually he has a good chance of going through this very scenario just outlined right here. Why? Because it's a norm in our society. And a very common problem for most men to find themselves involved in. Tell the truth about the time your son or grandson came to you and said he was getting a divorce and was going through family court. And he said, "Oh, come on, Mom. We still get along. I don't think she would do anything bad." And you said to him, "I know why you feel the way you feel. But divorce and family court changes people. And you need to be prepared for the worst." And lo and behold, she hit him with this accusation and that accusation. And is asking for full custody and X amount in support. Just exactly as you warned him. It's because feminists many years ago constructed this way for women if they so choose. And that's the important key thing to understand here. If they so choose to not be responsible for their actions, yet to still be held in high regard as a mother, even when their actions show they are a terrible mother, and to be financially rewarded with a man's wealth and his children in family court, because of what they pounded into all of our minds. Men are rapists. Men are violent. All women are victims. Women are nurturers. And men are mindless brutes that have no sense of feeling and sensitivity. And because this lie has been said over and over and over again, no matter how many times a woman lights her child on fire, or ODs in the car with her child sitting in the back seat, we still believe the lie that was told over and over. Because guess what, if this tactic is admitted as a tactic, just like when the TV shows came out, showing how magic tricks are done, the illusion will fall. And people will wake up and start seeing the trick for what it is. And that it's a sleight of hand trick. What I want you to think about is how many women's lives would collapse around them if they no longer had this trick in their bag to pull out. Then I want you to think about how many of these types of women would have children knowing they had to be responsible for them. And here's the thing. Even good women do this. Because good people can do bad things. One thing we know for sure. Sadly, when even good people get caught doing something bad, it's commonplace for people to lie. No one here can say they've never told a lie. Especially when they regretfully did something bad. Well, there are good women out there that I think when confronted with the idea of struggling in a small studio apartment living on top ramen noodles, or keeping the family home, while having someone else pay for it, I think the temptation is too strong. And guess what happens? Lies. Lies happen. Lies that force a good man into a bad situation. Because at that moment it's about self-preservation. It's either him or me. And they choose themselves. And oftentimes this once good woman will remain silent while she watches the man she was once involved with that she knows loves his children get destroyed and not say a word in his defense. Because if she does, that's admitting he's a good man. And a good father. And guess what happens by admitting this truth? She loses the family home and all the support that comes with sole custody. Here's something to ponder. And I know this might not be the best example. And I can already see people jumping on their keyboards when I mention this. But why do they call the mail order bride scam a scam to begin with? It's because the women from different third world countries that marry men from first world countries know from the get-go they have no intentions from the get-go of staying married. And contrary to what some may say, they aren't just wanting a green card. They are wanting a green card and money. You don't think those that have successfully divorced first world country men and stole their money and children haven't filled in the other women on how to do it too? They tell these women all you have to do is accuse him of abusing you. Call the cops on him. Accuse him of abusing the children. And you will get the house, the cars and the money. And live on easy street. That's why it's called a scam. So wait. Wait a minute. If things were fair and equal, how is it possible for it to be so easy for these women that are marrying a first world country man to lie and accuse him of all kinds of things and take his money and children? It's because the family court system isn't fair at all. Again, are there good women that get caught up in the system? Yes, there most certainly are. But again, ladies, the feminists that created the system don't care about you. They didn't make it for the women wanting to play fair. They made it for any woman that chooses. And that's the key word. Chooses not to play fair to be able to do so. And sadly, even good women that were once loving and good to a man can change on a dime the moment they realize they might have to downgrade their life if they want to do the moral and right thing and be honest in court. Because sadly, human nature isn't good when people are tempted with such options. And just because you did the right thing doesn't mean there aren't millions and millions of women that don't take advantage of the system. And if it doesn't change, your son, your grandson, and your great-grandson all have a chance to become a victim of this sick system. But admitting such problems will open up a can of worms and destroy a billion-dollar industry. And there will be many unneeded lawyers and court workers if the truth is admitted. And a lot of women thinking twice before they have children. Because they know it might be a possibility of downgrading their life in order to equally support their children. And from there we will start to have conversations about domestic abuse. And how many of these same women, and some of them good women, may have hit a man out of anger, knowing that if the man hits back he's in trouble. Well, by admitting these things in family court, the next step is admitting women are just as capable to abuse men as men are to abuse women. And that ability for women to hit men out of anger without the man defending himself will disappear. And the feminists don't want that. That's why they fight so hard against anyone that dare speak the truth. Because if one part of this problem is looked at, such as the biggest scam in family court, which is accusing the father of things he didn't do, all in the name of getting more support, the family home, the cars, etc., this big ugly house of cards will come crumbling down. Now, do we need to be fair and just on looking at such problems? Yes, because we don't want things to swing back so far the other way. We just need to say, hey, this is a big time hustle. Let's make it fair. But do me a favor. When you do that, and you mention this scam or hustle, watch how much hate you get. And think to yourself, all I'm doing is asking for things to be fair. Why are they opposing what I'm saying? And then you have to think about who created this ugly system and what they will stand to lose by this ugly system going away. And in that, You will understand why they strongly fight against anyone that dare speak up for fairness. When it's in regards to family court. Something to think about. The other thing to think about. As I've mentioned before. It's clear there's no monopoly when it comes to evil in regards to men and women. However, if 70% of divorces are filed by women, and 90% of child sole custody goes to the mother, doesn't it stand to reason that 90% is quite high? And there are going to be a lot of children going to live with a narcissist mother. All because of the lie we've been sold by feminists that all women are victims and all men are abusers. Again, something to think about. Also, I wanted to mention hypergamy. There's also another social norm going on here. There's a real reason why in most of these cases the man makes more money than the woman they were either married to or dating. Or they are now in family court with. It's called hypergamy. No. Women aren't having problems in the workplace. Most big companies I've seen have a good portion of women working there in high-up manager roles, rivaling their male counterparts if not doing better. And women are graduating from colleges at a higher rate than their male counterparts. So what's the problem? Women rarely date down. And before you get on your keyboard and tell me about how you dated a broke man, and so forth and so on. Your story, though important, doesn't represent the social norms. I'm sorry to say it that way. But it's the truth. Take a step back a second. It's very uncommon to see a woman that's a doctor, or dentist, or lawyer, or business owner date the checker at the grocery store. It just isn't something that's normal in our society. And the rare instances it does happen, most people have the shocked reaction of as if to say, "No way, man. That couldn't have happened." However, this woman that is a doctor, dentist, lawyer, or business owner, usually will put themselves in a situation where they can date and or marry someone that has more money and assets than themselves. And this is done not just to be with someone they have something in common with, though it could be a secondary reason. It's usually. And again, if this isn't you, may God bless you. But most women do this as a way to create a safety net for themselves. So in case the marriage ends, they don't have to downgrade their financial life. And if anything, they will be able to increase it. And the chances are the one that will end up losing is the one that has more to lose. And they know if the relationship ends with the man they met at the grocery store, she will be the one paying for the majority of things. And she doesn't want that to happen. However, for men will date or marry a broke woman, rich woman. It doesn't matter. But it's more times than not the women that chose this man are going to have less money than him. Because to them, it's a good investment. If the relationship ends, she gets money. Now sure, are there some situations where the rich man has so many powerful lawyers he can destroy a woman, so forth and so on? Sure. Yes. There is. But by and large, if a man has millions and he met a woman that worked at a coffee shop serving coffee, and they have kids together, and she plays her cards right, and doesn't do the moral thing, like telling the truth, yet she makes it seem this man is this horrible human being, kicks him out of the family home she didn't pay for, gets restraining orders, and gets sole custody. Guess what? Her coffee shop days are over. And sadly, even a good woman can make this evil choice. Because once they are confronted with the relationship being over, and they realize they are going to be right back in that same coffee shop, and no longer living in the lap of luxury, guess what happens? The worst of humanity happens. Because at that point it's self-preservation. And just like a hungry person is dangerous because they will do anything to survive, well, a woman that stopped working at a coffee shop, or at the grocery store, confronted with the fact of needing to go back, or if they lie they can still live in the lap of luxury, many will talk themselves into that lie. And that's why many of you told your sons and grandsons to watch out while dealing with an ex in family court. Because you know that even a woman that was once good can do the most horrible evil things when they know they have a chance to either lose it or gain it all. Something to think about.